Hello, everyone. Hello. Hello, welcome. Let me set up my office here. Beautiful. Welcome. Oh, many of you. Huh, I didn't think too many would join the timing, although it's so important. That's why I'm gladly surprised that many have joined. Thank you. It's important. Timing's everything. Here we go. Let me see who's joined us tonight. Let me move my stuff out the way. Hello, Dhruti and Mandeep. Always good to have you here. Hello, Maria. Fantastic to have you here too. Great. Marie. Fantastic to have you here. Great to see familiar names. Great to see. Marie and Maria both are more than likely going to be in Ethiopia with us in 2021 and 2022. Elizabeth, great to have you here. Konnichiwa. And konnichiwa to you too. Fantastic. Tim, welcome, my friend. Bring it in. Elisa, hello. Hello and welcome. We're going to do our usual, 18 of you. Jeez, brilliant. And we're going to wait a little bit to make sure everyone's here. And a few minutes, not long. Yeah. I was thinking, we tragically lost a comrade in the safari industry, fellow guide, not from Wild Eye, from hello, Grace. Welcome. Oh, yes, I'm recording. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Elisa. Thank you. Yeah, and it got me thinking. His name is Sheldon, and he got killed by an elephant 2 days ago, which was tragic. I didn't know him that well, but it's always hard because the guiding industry is small, so you all know each other. And I was thinking, like, it was such a, I think life has to remind us, because us humans, we forget all the time how important certain things are. We have to be reminded often how fragile and precious life is. And I was thinking about this lockdown period, and I was very guilty of it, of like despairing and going, oh, this is bullshit. I'm just going to go to work and I'm going to type out stuff, and then I'm going to come home and I'm going to sulk, and then I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to do that until it's all done. Well, lockdown ended and Sheldon didn't get to experience what it was like after lockdown. So I was like, in all those days I wasted sulking, there was something valuable I could have done to make the day worth it. There really was. And I'm sorry Sheldon's passing had to remind me of that. But anyway, a little bit of food for thought. 2 minutes in, I think everyone's here. Rest in peace, Sheldon. Today, we are chatting timing. It is, at the end of the day, as a photographer of any kind, I think that mastering timing is essential in many ways. Internally, in the camera, we master timing in the way, in the time our shutter stays open, and how much light we let into our sensor. It's got to do about timing. But the biggest part about timing when it comes to photography, we're gonna dive into two of them, is prediction, which has got a few different aspects to it, and in-camera preparedness. That's the external factors of timing. Being in the right place at the right time, okay? Pressing down your shutter at the exact right time. Little things that can make us not miss exceptional photographs. Because it happens. I have sleepless nights sometimes when I think about some of the times. Michelle, I hope you're well, Michelle. Jill and Michelle, traveled with them a long time ago. As you can see, I'm wearing a polo jacket because I'm from Zambia and I struggle with cold weather, and it's freezing here in Joburg at the moment. Cold front hit. It's like minus, no, it's not. It's actually about 10 degrees, but that's cold for me. Yeah, here's the big jacket. Anyway, so timing, in-camera preparedness, and then being in the right place at the right time and getting the right shot when the right shot presents itself. Moments wait for no one. That's why they're called moments. And again, everyone's guilty of this, of slacking and procrastinating and then losing a good shot. And I'm going to talk about a few things that apply to a lesser and greater extent to every individual, because sometimes you're completely reliant on your guide. You know, some of you are going to travel with us in the future, and it'll be great because the Wildlife team have got a lot of experience in the field. A lot of us have been guides for some of us a decade, and we've gotten used to prediction, to put yourself in the right place, timing, making sure we're a little bit early to make sure we've got enough time to have in-camera preparedness to get the right shot. Some of you are going to travel alone, and you're going to be completely reliant on what you know, your own research, or the local guide who might not have any photographic intuition. So I'm going to mention a few things here, and we can hopefully remember them when you go on your own trips. And this is a discussion. I encourage people to ask questions. We can talk about anything you like. And well, let's begin. Timing. So firstly, there's a picture behind me. Probably one of the better timed pictures I've ever taken of two cheetah. And obviously the head directly behind a beautiful red sun. However, it wasn't just luck. And this was a moment I was with Olga and Dennis, clients of mine in Mala Game Reserve, and these cheetah were walking along. And this is where prediction has such a big part. Often in wildlife, there's a greater scene, okay, in wildlife photography. In fact, in a lot of photography, but especially in wildlife photography, there's a greater scene, which is obvious to everyone. We run into it and we can take pictures and go mad. But in that scene, there's micro scenes. Those are the important ones. Little moments, 2 seconds here and there of an animal looking up or being in the right position where you get the best photograph. I'm sure all of you can agree with me that a powerful image is worth an infinite amount of pictures. There's no comparison. One powerful image versus an infinite amount of just pictures. Truly, it is what the whole purpose is of having a picture or image or painting is to create emotion. So if you can capture that one image, and some scenes are going to have quite a few opportunities for it, but they're going to come and go very quickly. I've only ever had one magic moment last for a long time, and that's rule number one with prediction, is actually carry your camera with you, because you never know when you can see amazing things. I was in Namibia, long story short, lion killed a leopard in front of me, very sad about the leopard, ran out into white sands, sun setting behind it, turned around, looked at me with a leopard drooped in its mouth, just looking. Big male lion, black male lion, leopard in his mouth, sun behind him, dramatic, sad, amazing, no camera. Never let that one down. Anyway, don't make that mistake. Greater scene, that's what we're talking about. And a lot of prediction has to do with experience and knowledge of the animal, and not all of us have that. You know, I don't know the behavior of a great bear or grizzly, or, you know, how to predict hammerhead sharks in Galapagos. But the same people might come to Africa and not know how to predict a leopard. Not everyone has first-hand experience with these animals. So research, first thing, please research and ask your local guide and listen to your local guide, especially. I want to show you a picture that we took quite some time ago. Let me get this one out, the leopard. You know, I have quite a few of these shots. I'm sure some of you have seen, because I don't keep a lot of images. I only keep what I truly believe I enjoy. And this leopard, I mean, my clients really had to trust me because it involved prediction. It involved timing and reading the animal behavior and looking up. Often we come into a sighting and you know, I'm very grateful to have spent quite a lot of time with Africa's animals. But if I were to go to Alaska, see a grizzly, I'd probably be so excited to see it. I wouldn't think about these things. So that's what I'm telling myself then, and that's what I'm telling you then, is that we've got to think about these things. We've got to look up. You see a leopard for the first time, you're going to be caught up in the excitement, paralyzed by the excitement. Get us close, firing away, but you don't notice the leopard's actually going towards a river, and it's a thin river, and it's early morning, and she's probably going to drink. She might even cross the river. She might jump and leap, and you're still taking photos, trying to get close, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you realize what she's about to do, and then you race around. It's too late. By the time you get around, she's drunk, jumped over the river and carried on walking. You've got hundreds of pictures, but you've compromised great images for those hundreds of those pictures, and they'll haunt you for the rest of your life. So let's chat about it now, and let's make sure that we don't learn this lesson too many times in life. This male leopard, Senegal bushmare, was with 2 female leopards. It was an amazing scene. 3 leopards all just hassling each other. 2 females obviously weren't so happy with each other. One was mating, the other one was just trying to see what was going on. She already had a cub. And my guests really had to trust me. I said to them, we have to leave this, because to get around, these leopards are going to cross the river just by watching their movement. It'll take us 5 minutes to get around. It'll take them 1 to cross over the river, to get to the river and cross over. So we've got to leave. And I remember some of my guests were apprehensive. You know, 3 leopards, we're going to leave? I said, yes, we have to line up perfectly. And we drove around and we lined up. The leopard jumped, got it jumping straight at us. Okay, it's a little bit of Photoshop here. There's a couple of grasses in the way, but nonetheless, got a leopard jumping straight into the frame, which is a relatively rare shot. So prediction is a big part of what we do. And you know, it's not a luxury that we all have. Some people have regular access to destinations. They get to know animals, they get to know places. So do your research and ask your guides. I promise you the price of a local guide might be steep in places. It is worth every penny if you want to get the best shots. So use them where you can. It is going to be worth your while. So yeah. Let's go on to some more things here. Paralyzed by excitement. So I've written out some stuff here. Yeah. So another thing I want to talk about is in portraiture, as in people. There's a huge part. I don't know how many of you are interested in portraiture. There's thank you, Tim. Yeah, it is tough. It is tough. We've got to make sure we're ready for those moments. Always look up and see what's coming ahead of you. I mean, these cheetah, we were right next to them, and the sun was setting, and I've always wanted a predator with a soft red sun behind them, and it's finally I could see that it's all lining up. And again, there was a dip next to an airstrip, and I just said to our clients, to Dennis and Olga, I said, guys, we're going ahead of this. We've got to get in front of them, check our settings, shoot into the sun, make sure the settings are good. And sure enough, we did, and the cheetah walked right into the frame, and we got the shots that we wanted. So prediction is a huge part of what we do. I've got endless examples of where prediction has been good and where prediction has been bad. Although where the prediction is bad, probably I have not kept those images because I may have deleted them. This is something I want to show you. I'm going to go into the next subject. Well, actually, we're not going to get into in-camera preparedness just yet, but I'm going to come back to this, and I'm going to tell you a little story, a little lesson same lesson that I've learned over and over and over again. In-camera preparedness is going to be a big thing. Prediction, again, when you see lionesses with cubs jumping around at their feet, okay, it looks like she's going to pick one of them up. Don't just wait for it to happen. Don't just do that. You know, don't just wait for that. Look around, look up, go, where's the sun coming from? What do I like? Do I like backlight? Do I like side light? Do I like the light in her eyes? Let's think about it. Drive around, put the light behind her. That way her eyes are nice and open. We always think we want front light on our subject. If it's a live subject, they're going to squint because the sun's in their eyes. And there's going to be shadow if they're not squinting in their eyes. So move around. You know, usually when a lioness picks up a cub, picks it up and looks around, and you're more than likely going to get a moment where she's looking at you in good light with no shadow in her eyes. So I know it's hard to do, but when you can see a moment, look for it, always look up, look ahead of you, look for dips in the road. This is one of the biggest things. If you're following an animal and your head's down, you'll miss opportunities where you can get a very, very low angle. And that is huge, although my picture of an example has not arrived. Anyway, so let's go on to something else. We're going to talk about portraiture, people, same thing, prediction. Prediction is a different story with people, a slightly different approach with prediction, because people are sensitive to us, very sensitive to us. This is a young young girl in Ethiopia, in Lalibela. And there's a lot of things that you have to consider when you're doing people. Now, if you just walk in there and you start firing away, you're gonna get this. Let me show you what you're gonna get. You're gonna get this. Beautiful lady indeed. But you can see she is too aware of me, too aware of the viewer, and not exactly happy with the viewer. This is the energy that your photograph's going to carry if you just walk into a scene and start shooting. You want that naturalness. In their comfort, that's where the best, most powerful images lie, in the comfort of your subject. When they're comfort and when they're natural, there's the most powerful images. When they're aware of you and they're looking at you, you'll get eye contact, you'll get stuff. But with people and animals, it's very different. With people, you can get the wrong impression if they're just looking at you the whole time. It's all about you, it's all about you. You want them to be natural, you want them to be comfortable. So prediction plays a big part in shooting people, but also it takes a little bit more than that, a little bit of strategy. And humans are typical of, we have thousands of different expressions. Few of them are way more powerful than most of them. So it's important to engage with your subject, but also to not obsess with your subject when it comes to, those of you who might join me in Ethiopia, we'll talk about this before, is to not be obsessed with your subject, because that'll make them uncomfortable and you'll get this sort of result. You'll get this sort of result. I think I've got more here of unnatural portraits, okay? I've done some work on some of them to make their eyes stand out, to make it a little bit more engaging or confronting, to take away that kind of, why are you still looking at me look, which kills for me a portrait photograph. You get this, droopy eyes, kind of looking at you. So the trick is to not just fire away at your subject, trying to take pictures, to get comfortable in the scene, to be a part of the scene. You might even, if you do that too much, get a clay pot thrown at your head, and that's not going to be any good. So it's in that comfort, that naturalness that you need to create. You need to personally create that. So sit down, smile, look around, be a part of the scene, let them get comfortable. Don't get obsessed with them. As soon as they get obsessed with them, they get, in Lalibela and in Oma Valley and in a lot of tribes, most of these guys have had pictures taken of them, but they still don't like people trying too hard. They get all rigid, and you can see it in their facial expressions. They're too sensitive. So know when to look outside the viewfinder, but watch your subject in your peripherals. All of a sudden, they're going to get engaged with something they're comfortable with, a comrade, someone standing next to them, and they have a laugh and they look up, and you get that beautiful shot, that natural shot, that shot that speaks 1,000 words. Good example is these two. So personally, this was okay. This was an okay result, but the subject was too concerned about me. And I can see it in her eyes, okay? And some photographers would like this. They want this. They want that direct eye contact. But for me, is when she got comfortable and she started chatting to one of her friends. Well, I mean, she actually was talking, but you can't see her mouth move because of the lip. This is Mercy tribe in Ethiopia. And as soon as she started chatting to her friends, it took the attention off me, which gave the photograph a little bit more mystery. She got a little bit more comfortable, and I was much more happier with the emotion that's made in the photograph. Same thing with this is a Hammer lady. In the beginning, she was very rigid and like trying to smile, and all we were doing is taking pictures of someone. But all of a sudden, we laughed, we cracked a few jokes, we told them a few jokes about our side of the world, and she just loosened up and she started dancing, she started going wild, and we got these beautiful natural shots. So portraiture, very important to predict, but also to not obsess. So you watch your subject, engage, and then you see them starting to loosen up and chat to someone nearby. That's when you lift your camera and you wait. Prediction, very, very, very important. So fine line between that, being ready for your subject, and being overly obsessed and making them get really rigid. So prediction, very, very important. We're going to talk about something else now. In-camera preparedness. Probably definitely as important, maybe even more important than prediction, is having your camera in a state of preparedness. How many people here have shot stars at night and left their camera on their star settings and then gone out the next morning and seen an amazing sighting and clicked the shutter and it went, and 25 seconds later it closed. Yes, Tim has. Yes, Maria has. Yes, Bianca has, at least. It's the worst feeling. It's the worst feeling in the world. There's nothing worse than getting into a scene and you come out in the morning and you're like, oh, you know what, I'll do my settings when I see something, or the sun warms my face a bit. All of a sudden, there's a leopard stalking a bushbuck and it suddenly goes in and you had time and you just go clink and you just get this washed out white disaster that is going to haunt you for the rest of your life. No, it's a nightmare. Charlotte, it's a nightmare. Personally, I still do it sometimes and it drives me nuts. I'll never get used to it. So this is what in-camera preparedness does. And if I'm going to say one thing, every single morning when you get on a Jeep, you get on a walk, you're about to go something, you need to consider what you're about to go into and adjust your settings accordingly. For example, those of you have been, there's a few of you here, Tim, no carbon cameras are horrible one, especially with, I think it's Canons. I don't know if other cameras do it, but you can shoot without a card. It just fires. And there's even a 2 megapixel preview that pops up. So you think you've taken 2,000 great images for the day, open up, no carbon camera. Well done. I know, Canon, I don't know why they did that. That blows my mind. But having in-camera preparedness is too important. Who remembers this picture? Probably prep your camera. Absolutely, Grace. It is too important. Too important. Who remembered this picture? I'm sure everyone's seen it. It's probably one of the most circulated wildlife images of the last 2 years. Went everywhere. I don't know if any of you saw the video of this scene. It got reposted all over Facebook, Instagram. One picture was taken. They were videoing, it jumped and it went click. And it was a chef from Australia. Well done, mate. And he clicked this one scene. He was lucky. Well done. He got good. Most of the time, it's not going to work that way. Your settings are going to be off and you're going to mess up a perfectly good shot. For example, those of you that come out with us in the Mara, the first thing that we're going to drive through is that thick bush next to camp. Then there's going to be a big open area. It's going to be morning. It's going to be dark. ISO 32,000, f2.8 if you're on a 400 2.8, or f4 if you're on a 200 400, or f5.6 if you're on one of the bigger zoom lenses. Get ready for fast moving subjects. This was a good example in that exact open area next to camp. I don't know if anyone online was actually with me here. I don't think anyone was here. And Bianca, in this sighting, nope, I don't think so. Don't think anyone was with me in this sighting. But literally, as we left camp, this was ISO 6400. As we left camp, I think it was f2.8, and out of nowhere, there's a lion jumping on a hippo. Unheard of. Luckily, those of us in the car, we'd all discussed in-camera preparedness, and we had put our ISOs high, just in case something fast is happening around the next corner, and we were ready for it. And we were. And quite often, we're not ready for it. And another situation is this: myself and Dennis Stogsdill, we were looking for engaging hippo. You know, the South Luangwa River is getting low, and hippo are starting to tussle with each other fairly often. So we made sure our shutter speeds were high, 1600 to capture the drops, 2000 even if it was the middle of the day. So we could literally go ISO 800, shutter speed 3200 to make sure we just froze the image. So let me read that. Marie, it's a good question. I don't. The question is auto ISO. Do I use it? I don't. I use aperture priority and I have control of my ISO as well. However, I know a lot of people do use auto ISO. It's the same thing as using program mode. For me, it's just on the side of giving the camera a little bit too much control, but it's not wrong. I see people using this, professional photographers, and they get great results. But personally, I like to have a little bit more control. So ISO on manual is what I would suggest. Especially with today's cameras, how quickly it is to change your ISO. So in-camera preparedness, another example, you're coming home, it's in the Masai Mara, you really want an animal on a ridge with beautiful skies. Make sure your camera is in that setting. The amount of times you think this shot is so easy, you're going to take a picture of something on a ridge, you're going to come home. But there was so little light, your ISO wasn't high enough, you took a whole bunch of pictures in the camera, it looked great, you got home, they were blurred. They were blurred, wasted. So very important to have in-camera preparedness. This was a lucky shot and a good example. Myself, Mike Sutherland, on safari in Mala Mala, and camera on the corner to a hunting leopard. My shutter speed, didn't have in-camera preparedness, and I got lucky. There's about 7 shots of this scene. All of them were trash, except for this one, because it was on 1/400th of a second for a sprinting leopard. Not enough. But with the pan, in a moment, he was still enough in the air, and there was just enough shutter speed to keep him just sharp enough to manage the shot. So having in-camera preparedness is super, super, super important. Let me just make sure I'm not forgetting stuff here. Alisa, good question. Early morning, when it's still dark, am I on manual or aperture? If it's really dark, if it's winter in Southern Africa and, the sun only gets up at 7 and you're leaving at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and you've got 45 minutes of actual darkness, I'll be on manual. I'll be getting ready to shoot on spotlights. So manual photography is the best, most consistent way to shoot in such low light conditions. You have to go manual. As soon as there's enough light for my camera to get a better reading of what's going on, and we don't need a spotlight, an artificial light. That's the border. The second you need an artificial light, manual. No artificial light, aperture priority is going to be perfect for you. So I hope that answers your question, Alisa. Let me just move that out the way. Combat ready is what I like to call it. Make sure your camera is combat ready. Otherwise, you will be taking a lot of pictures home to describe to your family all about your incompetence in messing up beautiful photographs. I've had to do that too many times, and I'm actually speaking of myself here, and hopefully you don't have to learn the same lesson too many times. But yeah, I mean, it goes with a lot of things. If you're trailing cheetah, when cheetah are walking side by side, they're patrolling, don't just shoot on 1/600th of a second because, they're moving slowly. You never know when a rabbit's going to jump out of the grass and they're going to go to 100 kilometers an hour in 2 seconds. You're going to mess up your shots. It's the middle of the day. Your camera can manage 3200 ISO. Why not put it on 2000 ISO so you can get 1600 shutter speed, just in case? You're getting the shots anyway, the same shots, a little bit more noise, we can take that away. But all of a sudden the cheetah bolt up and they run. And I'm talking from real scenes that I've seen happen. And your shutter speed's too slow and you lose it. But you've prepared, waited, in camera preparedness, 1600 shutter speed, you've got beautiful pictures of sprinting cheetah. Birds flying, if you're going to do birds, make sure, if you've got elephants walking, if you're just driving through the Mara, and I often try and preach this when I'm in a car, there is a place to leave your camera, a setting to leave your camera. It's not just anything, and it's in a state that says, I'm prepared for anything that comes around the corner. Lions fighting, as best as I can be. Early morning, you might not have enough light for 1600th of a second, so you do the best you can. I know my camera can manage 6400 ISO with a little bit of noise. Let me go to 6400 ISO, and as the sun drops, I'll just drop that a little bit, just keep the camera ticking over at the best it can. Good question, Alisa. This question is for fast-moving scenes. Do I go aperture or shutter priority? So I've learned the relationship between the 3 settings, aperture, ISO, and shutter speed, very well. So even in aperture priority, if it's a fast scene, I know where my aperture and my ISO need to be for relevant shutter speed. So I keep it in aperture priority just because over time you learn the relationship quick enough, so you can just dial your ISO down or your aperture down or up, and you can get your relevant shutter speed. The problem about changing back and forth is that it's one more setting to change if you get surprised by something that's more suited to aperture priority, if that makes sense. And you're going, what is going on here? I thought I was changing my aperture, but you're actually still on shutter speed, and you're rolling your shutter speed until it was too slow and you messed up the whole scene. So my advice is just to learn one or the other. It's not wrong whether you shoot on shutter speed or aperture priority. I assure you that. It's a matter of perspective. No one's perspective is a rule in this game. So whether you shoot aperture or shutter, it's up to you. If you're used to one or the other, it's actually, there's no difference. It's all about just knowing the relationship between shutter speed, ISO, and aperture priority. and aperture. So the only time I do use shutter priority is when I'm doing motion blur. Motion blur is a really amazing way to create artistic images, and you purposefully blur the image, hopefully trying to keep your subject relatively sharp. Elisa, I use shutter speed if I'm determined to accomplish some motion blur images. I'll go to shutter priority because you dial in exactly what you want. Sprinting zebra, 1/60th of a second. Flying bird, 1/20th of a second. Walking elephants, 1/5 of a second. So you know exactly what you want, and that's where shutter priority really comes in handy. Really comes in handy. So there's no real exact setting to put your camera in a state of readiness, but there is a place that you can put it in any scene, whether you're doing polar bears or you're doing gorillas. Where you're doing gorillas, you know you're going to be in the jungle, you know you're going to be dark. So walk into the forest with 3200 ISO because you know your ISO is going to be high. So don't wait until you get to the scene and all of a sudden your first couple of images, which might have been the best of the day, are blurry because your ISO was on 400 or 640. So prepare your camera to the best acceptable medium that's going to give you something within your what they call exposure latitude, which is the area in which you get the acceptable exposure and acceptable image. So that's what camera preparedness is all about. I hope that's jogged our memories a little bit, and that we head out there and we make sure we're prepared and we make sure we predict what's going to happen most. I might have some more pictures here we can chat about a little bit, and good examples. Again, people. This little kid, I don't think you guys can see it. A little bit of eye contact there. Was very nervous about me being a Westerner in this place. She couldn't take her eyes off me. And so eventually, predicting that there's this funny object that one of the priests had a burning substance in it, and was smoking, part of their ceremony. And I could see she was wanting to look at it, and she was looking at me. And once she's looking at me. So predicting that she's going to stare at this thing and give me a great shot of her looking up, went away, put on a 70-200, all the way at 200 mils. Finally, I was far enough. She got comfortable and looked up and gave me that light that hits the eyeball and makes such a beautiful portrait shot. So a few examples there of prediction. Got a few more here. Yeah, those little moments of eye contact that take an image. This is the one I wanted to chat to you about absolutely, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you're talking about metering modes and focal point settings. Almost always carry my camera in single point autofocus, because most of the time I'm going to want exact control over focusing on the eyes of my subject. And for most scenes, I'm going to be able to capture it with single point autofocus. You're going to pay the price of every now and again, come around the corner and it's a bird or a cheetah in full sprint. Keeping that single point on them is going to be more difficult. But for me, I fail more times when it's not single point autofocus and my nose isn't focused and the eyes are blurred. So single point autofocus and center weighted metering is probably the best two options for being in camera preparedness for traveling, because center weighted is going to give you a good average of a light reading over the frame, and single point, it's going to just allow you to put that focus exactly where you want you to. So that'll be my advice, Elizabeth, is single point and center weighted metering. Obviously, if you've got new Sonys or new Canons, they've got eye capture autofocus. I'd probably wait on that, because that's going to, I use the R6, which has an incredible animal eye focus, and I played with some of Marlon's Sonys. It's unbelievable. But if you're still shooting on a camera that doesn't, which is completely fine, I still do, single point autofocus is your best bet. This is another image that I completely messed up because of not being prepared, procrastinating, being lazy, going, oh, you know what, it might be. A scene like this is a wide scene. With a wide angle, even if you shot it at f5.6, it would still look mostly in focus because of that perception of a wide angle lens, okay? I'm sure you guys all know depth of field relies on your aperture, but also what zoom you're on and your distance between your subject and this background. So with a very wide angle lens, even sometimes shooting at f2.8 looks like everything's in focus, unless it's right next to the frame. So this, everything isn't in focus. Let me just read the questions. So let me read your question, Elisa. What, in your opinion, can build a connection with your viewer other than the subject looking in the camera? Speaking of animals, people often cross lines just to get the line looking at them. What are other techniques other than look in the camera or at eye level? Well, it's a good question, Elisa. You know, I've one of my 3 golden rules of creating a big picture has a lot to do with that, which is engagement and confrontation. But it walks hand in hand with perspective. If you want your viewer to engage with a particular subject, a personal connection, there's not many ways. And it also depends on what story you want to tell. You know, if you want it to be mysterious and you want your viewer to think about the subject a little bit more instead of just engage with it, then it doesn't matter if there's eye contact or not. You know, you are right. There's a lot of people out there who get a line to look at them hitting. I've heard a story now of someone who got out the car in a leopard sighting. She was in a tree to get the leopard to look at them, and she jumped out the tree and ran away. Very unethical stuff. With nature, you've got to decide what you want, because eye contact is not necessarily the kind of indispensable ingredient to a great image. Very powerful images sometimes have no eye contact, but it all is in context with what's around them. So for example, this picture that's behind me, there's no eye contact, but there's a long, vast area that the line's looking into, and that's the feeling you want to give out. So with a wildlife animal, if eye contact's what you want, to be honest, you have to wait. You have to wait, reposition the vehicle, hang around. Sometimes another vehicle comes into the sighting and it looks up and looks at you. With people, you can be more kind of in a polite and respectful way. You can manipulate people like I said, in a kind of and respectful way. Tribes, those of you come to me, Ethiopia, quite often they'll say, hey, you know, in their language, which you can't speak, but with a translator, they'll say, hey, what would you like? And sometimes you just say, oh, it's fine, just relax. And as soon as they start relaxing, you pick up your camera and they start looking, and then you get all these expressions, which are so beautiful. If you just say, look at the camera, this is what you get. That's it. You get this listless picture. So sometimes it rounds down to patience, at least if that makes sense. Just waiting and letting a situation develop, maybe including more of a background. So it's not just about the subject, but there's a little bit of context behind it. So it's a lot about that patience, waiting for the scene to develop into something. So this picture I took, and it's all right. Some people like it. I hate it. I can't even look at it. And I'll tell you why. Is because I try to find the picture for this exact thing, which was talking about in-camera preparedness, which was, this is a big scene. I should have been smart and gone to F11, F14 and made sure everything is in focus. But you know what? I was like, let me just stay on 5.6, somewhere around there. There's only one detail in the frame that needs to be sharp, and that's the line. I'll get away with this. All of a sudden, a flock of about 25 superb starlings flew up off the ground and circled the line. I mean, it was, I can't even think about it. I was so upset with myself because I took the picture and I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Whenever it is myself, Engin and Sajid, and all the starlings were blurred because my aperture wasn't what it should have been. And I was thinking about it. You know, I was like, it should be on F11, F14, but it doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter. It's just the line. It's fine. And then all of a sudden, the moment changed. So you've got to be ready. And the exact same thing happened with this, but you can't see it. It's a portrait shot of a lion. And Egyptian geese suddenly flew up into the frame and framed him. All these Egyptian geese framing this lion in this big scene. I mean, it was a magnificent shot, but it was destroyed because I did the exact same thing. So having in-camera preparedness is going to help you greatly with capturing great images. Any other questions, guys? It's a little bit of a kind of more of a, just a reminder for all of us, a reminder for myself, a reminder to you. Be prepared to predict. Don't just think that the immediate scene that you're looking at is going to be the best scene of the day. Look ahead of your animal, look ahead of your subject and go, big things are coming. Let me put myself there and capture that one shot that obliterates every other shot of the scene. I hope that all makes sense. Any questions? Any questions on the subject of timing and prediction and in-camera preparedness, or in fact, any questions on anything at all? No? Well, it has been a pleasure having you all here, especially those of you familiar names. Good to have you. If you don't want any more questions, if you don't have any more questions, I will bid you farewell. There's another one that took quite a lot of prediction and timing, sitting with the gorillas. It's such an important part of guerrilla photography is taking it easy with them, sitting, getting comfortable, letting the gorillas get comfortable with you. You're running around too much, going, sometimes they'll move away from you. So prediction, timing, very much. Sorry, Elizabeth, let me see your... Good question, Elizabeth. Custom settings. So I do have custom settings set up in my camera. And truth be told, it probably, those of you that are wondering about custom settings, you can actually have custom settings set up. So you could have whatever you want to call it, running animal, which is a fast shutter speed and a high ISO. And you could have slow shutter speed for motion blurring elephant. You can have all your custom settings. And at the click of a button, you can choose which one you want to go to. Very good, very quick way of getting back to certain settings. Elizabeth, I've set them up, but I don't use them. I've used them a little bit in the past, but now I literally just find if you can get used to aperture priority or shutter priority or whichever one that you're used to, it's a millisecond slower, if not the same pace, just getting to the settings that you want. So I actually don't use them at all, Elizabeth, although they can be useful. And I would absolutely support someone who uses them, and I'd never say that it's wrong because it is a useful setting, indeed. Alrighty. Any other questions? Oh, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, everyone. Always a pleasure. Let me see. Thank you, Druti and Mandeep. Let me just go back. Oh, there's lots of questions coming all at once. Oh, pleasure, Carla. Let me just go back. Talking about position, vehicle. So, oh, Grace. Grace, talking about positioning the vehicle. So you're not looking down at your subject. So important. That goes back to one of the rules, perspective. Looking down on your subject sometimes might work if you're including a big scene, skies, sunset, stars, but in a close environment, it's going to take the significance away from your subject most of the time. Again, there's always an exception to the rule, which is fantastic. But positioning your vehicle, prediction, this is a big part of prediction, so that you can get eye level with your subject is huge. You see a dip coming up and it's a lion walking, rather leave the line, drive 200 meters and wait in that dip and wait for him to come so that you get that eye level shot. Because if he's always next to you and you're always shooting down on him, you're always going to have a flat image and the perspective is going to be all lost. It's just going to be a picture. So very good thing about positioning the vehicle. If you don't have a photographic guide with you, tell your guide, I want to get low angles of the thing, because a lot of the time a guide won't know what you want. So you've got to mention it. Say, hey, if there's a dip coming up, I want to be in that dip so I can shoot up at him. And more often than not, your guide will go, oh, actually, there is a dip about 120 meters away. Let's go. And then you go and you get into the dip. So that low angle is truly an important thing. Tim, let me read your thing. Yes, you're right, Tim. I mean, Tim says prediction is an art. It's a skill. Many guys don't really have it. It is true, especially now that I'm traveling quite a lot and I'm in the back and there's another guy driving the Jeep. I find sometimes grinding my teeth into a powder because like I want to be somewhere else, and I'm one of those guys who don't like telling people what to do. But eventually I'm like, girl, hey, please, can we just drive down the road and sit in that gap, please, 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 please. And then reluctantly the guard would go down, and only afterwards he'd go, oh, okay, you know, that was well thought of. So you're right, it is an art, and it's rare. It is rare these days. Elisa, good question. What, in my opinion, makes a powerful leopard portrait? Well, at the end of the day, I think it's all about capturing the essence of an animal, the essence of your subject. So there's a few things that are essential to a leopard, essential to the essence of a leopard, if that makes sense. Okay. Leopards are really sassy animals. They're really sad. They've got a lot of attitude. And every now and again, their facial features express that attitude. The way their eyes look up, the way their body contorts, especially with females. They're really elegant animals. So you want to get those shapes involved into your portrait. I think I've actually got one here. So things like this, which unfortunately the bottom is cut off a little bit. So you wait for these moments when a leopard contorts its body into an elegant shape and has a lot of light in its eyes. It doesn't have to be looking at you, you can be looking up. Your composition will have to conform, obviously, with each scene, but capturing that elegance in a leopard's body is a big part, and especially facial features. So a leopard's always going to have this look on his face. Always going to have this look. But every now and again, they're going to do this, and they're going to do this, and they're going to give you that sassiness. You've got to wait for that little bit of change in their facial expression. And another essential thing to the essence of a leopard is their tail. Somehow informing the tail in a portrait is a great thing. This one here, luckily the tail bounced up in the background. For me, it's a big part of a leopard. When a leopard's got attitude and he's walking on patrol, its tail's up. It's sometimes the first thing that you see, the first thing that comes to mind is that tail of the leopard just going up like this as it's walking off, or monkeys are shouting at it and her tail goes up in frustration. So a few things, that confrontational, that expression with male leopards, it's often like quite a hard aggression when they kind of look at you like this and then they relax. So it's that initial kind of look of curiosity in a male leopard. And with females, it's that sassiness. Every now and again, they look up at a butterfly, or they look up at monkeys, or they like flick their head, and all of a sudden they look over their thing. And these little moments of jolting, putting that into the frame, that's what you're going to look for with leopard. One of the things. Thank you, Druti and Mandeep. Pleasure, absolute pleasure. Always a pleasure, Doris. Melissa, thank you very much for joining. Grace, yes, we did. Grace and I had a tutorial. We talked about positioning a Jeep. Because too often people are too close. They're way too close. You see an animal and you want to get right next to it, and you just have that downward angle. Rather, zoom in. You're at 400 mils. Go all the way back, 100 meters back, and shoot from there, because you're going to get a downward angle, you're going to get a big scene, you're going to get depth, you're going to get a beautiful image, rather than just looking down onto the animal and filling the frame. Cheers, Elizabeth. Take care. I look forward to seeing you next year. It's going to be a great, great trip. Pleasure, Bianca. Take care, Grace. Pleasure, Marie. I'll see you next year too. Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Tim. I agree. It's hard to take a bad picture of a leopard. They're so beautiful. And I mean, another thing that I didn't mention is obviously the spots of a leopard. You can fill the frame with spots and have a beautiful piece of art. Often if you combine it with textures of certain trees right against each other, those two essential things are a great picture of a leopard. So it's all about finding the essence of a leopard, its attitude. It's trying to get that extra little bit of, very difficult with cheetah. Those of you who have photographed cheetah, their facial expression is the same almost all the time. And they never want to look in the lens, ever. So very difficult to accomplish with cheetah. But leopards are much, much easier. Always a pleasure, Anne. Thank you very much. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you, Flo, for joining. Absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Wanda. Thank you for bringing it in. Tim, thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for joining. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm always available on email or social media platform, anything. I'm always here to help. I'd love to. Oh, sorry, there's a questions and answer thing that I missed here. Charlotte Nicholson. How often does the scene not go the way you think it will? I'd say, without blowing my trumpet too loud, I'm pretty good at predicting stuff now, but I'd say still 10% of the time, it completely baffles me why it went in a certain way, and it's completely opposite to what I predicted. So I reckon 10% is a good thing. How often do you just get lucky? That is rare. Charlotte, that is a very, very, very rare situation to just get lucky. You know, some people, it will never happen to you. Literally, I have a friend who worked at Mala Mala in the buffalo hunting era, where my brother saw 5 buffalo kills with lion in one morning. 2 years in that era, he never saw one. So don't count on being lucky. It's a very rare thing. Your readiness lens. Alicio, sorry, for those of you who have already logged off already, the questions and answers is a different, I don't know why there's 2 different places to put questions. I often miss this one. Your readiness lens. I'd probably say in wildlife, it would be your larger zoom lens, a 400mm or 100, 400, something like that. If you have both, a 100, 400, because it just gives you a bit more versatility, but not often people travel with both. So just your zoom lens. It's rarer that you're going to use a wider lens, or 7200. I mean, 7200 is my favorite lens in the whole world. So somewhere, if you've got a bigger lens, to get a little bit closer. Charlotte? Sure. How can you train your ability? It's difficult, Charlotte. It comes with time. Time in the saddle is probably the main thing. Spending as much time as possible in the scene, forcing yourself to think of different situations. So you're seeing a leopard going one way, constantly looking out. That's what we say. Look up, look ahead of it, look what's developing in front of it. You might see impalas 300 meters away. You're following a leopard, you're giving away its position. This happens. It used to drive me bonkers when I was a driving guide. When I would see impala and I'd drive all the way down to them and wait next to them. And there was all these other guides who just drive right next to the leopard. And then impala go, why are there 3 jeeps driving towards us? Oh, no, there's a leopard next to them. Let's run away. Bang, and they're gone. So forcing yourself in these situations to look up. And quite often, when you see another element, impala, a river, a water, your instincts kick in. We're still animals. Our instincts are alive in us, less maybe than wild animals, but they're there. You go, actually, you know what? I thought that might happen. And that starts happening again and again. And you actually go, you know what? I'm starting to get the hang of this. And you start predicting it. So in time, as long as you question the scene, where's he going? What's he doing? Not just photograph. Learn about the animal. This is so important. Ask your guide if you're not with us. Interpret what's going on. Tell me what he's doing. Learn as you go. And you will pick it up. I've had guests who have traveled with me 3 or 4 times. And now they're bang on the money. Poof, they'll go, Andrew, that leopard's going to drink. Or like, that lion is on the hunt. He's walking differently. He's picked some scent up in the wind. So question yourself, ask the guide for interpretation. It'll help you. It'll help you for sure. Yeah, learning about animal behavior can really help. You know, if you want to get books, Read About the Bush, Estie's Animal Behavior, really good books, reading up about it. Quite a few of our clients do actually have bought books and are learning. It helps greatly to learn about animal behavior. Always a pleasure, Charlotte. Sorry I got late to these questions. They were hiding the questions in the answer form. Have a great day, everyone. Have a fantastic Thursday. Have a fantastic, it's Thursday. Have a great Thursday. Thank you all for joining. Any other questions? Otherwise, I will love and leave you all, and we'll see you in the coming weeks for some more very exciting webinars. Always a pleasure, Tim. Take care. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll chat again very soon. Cheers, cheers.